Hi players, bonjour from Geneva, my name is Asafir and welcome to Board Game Co. In this video I'm going to show you how to play Blasphemous that was published by Ludus Magnus Studios. I just want to let you know that this is a prototype, so things you're going to see in this video like the art, components, rules, etc. are a subject to change. Before getting started, I just want to tell you that if you learned something new or saw something that you like or just appreciate this content, feel free to check out my other videos on my channel Easy Board Games, a link will be added down below. Ready to see how it goes? Let's get to it. Alright guys, so let's start by going over everything that we can see on your screen right now. Now, I'm just telling you that I never played the computer game, so I'm probably going to butcher some of the names of the things that we have over here in this board game, so I do apologize in advance. So we have over here the main board that is of course Cvstodia, and let's start going from left to right. Over here we have the enemy cards that later we're going to put right over here on the right side. We have the Procession cards. We have over here the Pilgrimage deck. In these places we have two cards basically, one of them that we used for the setup. So everything that you can see right now I basically took from the rulebook itself and from this card. That is of course going to change from one mission to another. Here in this prototype we have only this mission that I'm going to put on your screen right now, so you can understand that some of the things that we have, I have made according to the card. On top of it, we're going to place another card that is basically some rules that are specifically for this mission and also the victory condition. Next to it, we have the behavior cards. We have again two cards, but only one of them is going to stay revealed, and we're going to follow some rules. Most of them are going to be applied when we're going to have the sunset phase. After that, we have three public quests. That is, of course, something that we drew according to what we were instructed during the setup. We have some tome booklets. Again, that is according to the card of the setup. So the booklet of Cvstodia will always be with us in every game. And over here, we're going to have number 2, 4, and 12 that also correspond to where we have placed these small tokens that are called the Prix Dio. Now for each quest we're going to have also some setup that we'll need to do. Usually it's going to be to place some tokens. So for the first quest we choose the green token. So they instructed us to draw 3 area tokens, which is something that we'll see soon enough. I think that you can see over here the bag that we have. And we're going to assign the different tokens in the different areas. The same we're going to have with the second quest, only with blue tokens. And for the third quest, we actually did not need to place any tokens on the board. After that, we have some other public quests that we might need to draw during the game. And on the right side, I have placed the miracle board that is going to have some elements. First of all, we needed to draw, again, according to the setup, 3 enemy cards, 1 from each level. So we have 1, 2, and 3. They have their rage cube that is going to be set to 0, to the lowest possible position that we have. And we needed to take their miniatures and place them, again, as you already guessed it, according to the setup card, on the different areas that we can see. On top of that, we have 3 types of vestige cards. The first one is prayer, then we have beads, and we have also the ability. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. For each enemy that we have, we'll need to roll a d10, that of course comes with the game, and according to the result, we'll need to draw one of the cards that we have and place it underneath that enemy. Moving on to the Penitents setup, we have over here a setup for 2 players, of course, the red player and the green player. And what you can see right now are the 3 dice that we're going to roll from time to time in order to resolve some of the tests that we have. Also, we have the Bile that is going to start on its empty side, some of the player cubes that are going to start according to the setup card on the different parameters. That again is something that we'll see a little bit later. And each one of the penitents that we have is going to choose one of 3 cards. Now it's totally up to you to choose whichever card that you would like to play. It doesn't really matter right now, but each one of them has a little bit of a different stats, but don't worry about it because we will be able to switch between those cards. So again, the setup for both of the penitents is exactly the same. One of them is going to be assigned the sunset token. That is the first player that is going to play, then it's going to the other one. And when it's time to resolve again the next turn, of that player, we're going to have to resolve something regarding the sunset. More about that a little bit later. On top of that, we have the arsenal of tokens that we'll be able to gain during the game and actually upgrade the 3 dice that we have. Next to that, we have a D10 and a D100. We have the Nemesis token, and also we have some guild tokens. Now we have another element that I'm going to bring into your screen a little bit later. That is, of course, the arena with the Nemesis, but we're going to see it a little bit towards the end of the video. Now in Blasphemous, and I'm taking it directly from the rulebook, players will take on the role of Penitents, warrior priests devoted to the saints and the wonders enacted by the miracle, the higher being whose will shaped by lens of Cvstodia. In each game, Penitents will embark on a pilgrimage, a unique story that will lead them to uncover the secrets of Cvstodia, its inhabitants, and the abominations born of the Church of the Miracle. Facing danger and terrible enemies, the Penitents will have to work together to complete pilgrimage, but only one of them will succeed in the final intent and obtain the status of the saint, thus winning the game. So the game itself is actually divided into 2 phases. The first one is the dawn phase and the second one is the sunset phase. The meat and bones of the game is actually going to take place in the dawn phase, which is where the players are going to do most of their actions. In the dawn phase, starting with the first player and of course going clockwise, each player is going to resolve the different steps that we have one at a time. Starting with the beginning of the turn, and this is where if you have some of the components that are telling you to activate it in the beginning of your turn, this is when you activate them. Right now, obviously, we have nothing since this is the first turn, but some elements are going to direct you to do something at this step. The second step is optional, but it is movement. So here what you can do, let's go back to the main board, is to move up to 2 areas that are adjacent to each other. So how do you know that it's adjacent? Basically, from each area you can see those lines that are being stretched to different areas. Sometimes it's very obvious going from 1 to 2, but actually if we're looking at area 13, it is also adjacent to areas 7 and 10 that we'll need to locate on the map and go there. They are also considered adjacent. Now basically you can perform 2 movements, but pay attention that if you're going out from an area that contains an enemy, you are going to suffer from the vengeance effect of that enemy card. So let's actually take an example, shall we? That is the red player's turn and they would like to move right over here. That is 1 movement. They can stop there, and actually this is what they're going to do. But if they wanted to, they can go over here to number 8. Now, if you're looking at that enemy's card, we can see that the vengeance effect is to take 1 damage of that specific type. Now, why am I saying that specific type? Because we have different types of damage that we will take from different enemies. Now, let's say that really we continue to number 8 and we need to take this vengeance damage. When we're going back to our Penitents card, we can see that we have some resistance. Now this is very straightforward. Basically, if you have resistance, that is the amount of damage that you're going to prevent when you're taking that type of damage. So over here, obviously, since we have 1 resistant of that type, we obviously not going to take any damage at all. But let's say that we had over here 0 resistant to that specific damage, we would have taken 1 damage by taking this cube and pushing it 1 step down. That is basically to show how many wounds we have with that Penitent. But let's go back and stay over here in area number 2, just as we intended to. The next thing that we have, which is also optional, is collecting. So right now we can see that underneath each area on the map, we have something that we'll be able to take. Over here on number 2, it says that we'll be able to gain 2 of these drops that actually in the game are called the Tears of Atonement. And that is probably the main resource that we have in order to buy some cards later in the game. The other thing that we have is to heal 1 wound, so again, very straightforward. And we have different effects over here. Most of them are really straightforward, like we'll be able to buy some cards, heal 3, refill our Bile, but for the ones that are a little bit less obvious, don't worry, I'm going to cover them a little bit later. So right now we can take 2 of these Tears of Atonement. That means that when we're going back to our board, we'll simply go from number 3 to number 5. So right now we have 5 of these tears. The next step is mandatory and we will need to choose 1 of 3 options. Either combat, if we do have an enemy in the same area where we are positioned. The second one is to dash. This is where a penitent must move to another area linked to the area that they are situated right now. And again, if they're going to leave an area with an enemy, they're going to take the vengeance effect of that enemy. A different option that we have is the exploration, but that has to be in a safe area only. A safe area is an area where there are no enemy or nemesis models. So obviously it's not going to be this one. Over here I will not be able to explore. That is different, by the way, from a free area, which is an area where there are no penitent, enemy, or nemesis models. So, for example, number 18 is going to be considered a free area. The third action that we are going to take right now is combat. So obviously we'll be able to start combat only if there is an enemy in that specific area. So let's get to it and see how combat actually works over here in Blasphemous. So in order to resolve a map combat, we have a small sequence, and let's start with number 1, which is to get help. The player that is playing right now will be able to ask for help from another player if their penitent is in the same area or is in an area adjacent to this one. So again, we did establish already that these two areas are adjacent. Now, when we have a player that is asking help from another player, we need to activate something that is called the silence rule. The moment that we're asking for help, all the players at the table have to stay silent, and the player that was asked for help is the only one that can answer with a yes or a no. If they decide not to help them, they will take one of these guild tokens that is going to have some negative effects on their stats, and they will take it and place it on their boards. Otherwise, they are going to take an active role in this combat. In our case, when the red player asked from the green player for some help, they of course said that they were willing to help them, so it's pretty cool after all. Moving on to number 2, that is sacrifice yourself. So the player and their helper will be able to perform sacrifice maneuver as many times as they want. So maneuvers are basically free actions that we'll be able to take in most of the time during the game. Very few occasions are actually telling us that you will not be able to perform the maneuver. We have 3 of those. One of them is consume, the second one is equip, and the third one is sacrifice. So we're right now interested in sacrifice. So the player, when they're sacrificing themselves, can take 1 wound in order to gain 1 fervor. So we talk about the Tears of Atonement, we talk about wounds, and the last thing that we have over here on the left side is the fervor. So let's say that the red player would like to perform that. They're going to take 1 wound in order to advance 1 on this track as well. The green player decides that they would not like to do that. Number 3 is preparation, and the player and of course their helper can use their preparation effects if they have any of them. Again, neither of the players have any cards with that symbol of preparation, so we're going to skip that. But as you already guessed, some cards do have the effect of preparation, which can give them some bonuses to their dice roll, for example. Next, we have the attack test. The turn player, and again their helper, are going to roll their weapon dice. So this is where we're going to use the dice that we can see right over here. And when we're looking at the enemy card, we can see what do we need in order to defeat them. So each one of these things over here is one of the symbols or the numbers that we will need to achieve in order to kill this enemy. Now when it says number 1 or number 2, that is of course at least that number or higher. So we're going to roll the dice for the red player and also for the green player. And let's see what are the results that we have over here. With the results of the red player, we can see that we have over here number 1. That is great, exactly the first thing that we needed. And also we have this icon of a leg or a boot, however you would like to see it. But as you can imagine, that is not enough because we don't have number 2. Moving to the green player, we do actually have number 2, and the rest is pretty much irrelevant. So now that we can see what are the results of the red and the green player, we're going to move on to the next step, which is reaction. Again, that is something that we'll be able to resolve if we have these effects on one of the cards or one of the components that we actually belong. Again, we don't have any of that. And after that, we're going to apply the roll. So we need to compare the result of the dice with the numbers and symbols required by the attack test shown on the enemy card. So again, this is exactly the roll that we have over here. Now, if we're going to obtain numbers equal to or greater than those required and all symbols indicated, the roll is a success and the enemy is defeated. unless it is stated on the enemy card that we'll need to resolve a second test, which is again something that we do not have right over here. If we did not have the results indicated over here, that would have been a failure and the combat would have ended immediately. But regardless of the result, we need to check whether the penitent suffers from a counterattack from that enemy. So this is exactly what we can see in the second row. And the symbols basically say that we're going to suffer 1 damage of this specific type, the pink type, let's call it like that, if we didn't roll any shield symbol. So again, we do have over here a shield, we do have over here a shield, so no damage will be taken. Now that we need to resolve basically the outcomes of the combat, again, we have a small sequence. First of all, we're going to remove the miniature of the defeated enemy to the reserve. So this miniature is going to go to the reserve, which I'm going to place right now off screen if you don't mind. Then we'll need to check the quest cards, check whether the requirements of 1 or more quest cards are met. So basically some of the quests that are going to be at the top of the board will instruct you to place some cubes over here if you've done something. Now with the quest that we have right now on top of the board, the closest thing that we have, that is called Shroud of Dreamt Sins. And here it says that when a penitent removes an enemy model they defeated without a helper from the map, they may place 1 cube on the fulfillment slot. So here it doesn't really concern us because the red player did use the green player in order to defeat this enemy. But let's say that they did it alone. What they would have done right now is take this cube and place it right over here. Soon we're going to talk about these quest cards and how to obtain them, but for now it's just something that you should know to check the quest cards after combat. Next, we're going to go for the reward, of course, because we have defeated an enemy. So we have over here 2 things. The first one is the bonus that is appearing at the top right corner of the enemy card. In our case, it's just to receive 2 Tears of Atonement. The second thing that we have is the card that is on the bottom of the enemy card. That is again one of the Vestige cards that we have, and the player that is actually their turn will need to decide which reward they would like to take for themselves and which one to give to the other player. So I think the red player would like to take this card, so they're going to give the green player 2 Tears of Atonement. From 3 we're going to go to 5, and the red player is going to take this card and they're going to place it to the left of the border, exactly where we can match the symbol. In our case, it's going to be right over here. Now, when we're looking at this card that is called Soli of Excommunication, we can see that now we do have this symbol that actually corresponds to the reaction step of the combat sequence. Next, we'll need to check the rage. So I'm going to take you back again to the enemy card, to the lowest part that we have, and we can see that we have this symbol that corresponding, of course, to the rage, and we have some text that we'll need to see how does it going to affect us. In this case, it says a shield maiden is defeated. So basically, when the effect is actually happening, and of course different enemies are going to have different effects, we'll need to take the rage cube and push it 1 step upwards. Now, when this cube is going to reach to the symbol that we can see on the card, we'll need to resolve one of the Procession cards that we can see at the bottom left corner of the map. But again, I'm going to show it to you a little bit later. Now, if there are no more enemies of the same type that we have just defeated on the map, we will need to remove the enemy card from the miracle board and place it in the corresponding deck, which is right over here. Now, pay attention that we do have this symbol. That means that we will need immediately to start drawing cards from the Procession deck until we're going to reach the same level that we have over here, and then place that enemy, by the way, it can be the same one, and distribute the miniatures according to the areas that we can see on the card itself. Otherwise, since this is not the case because we still have miniatures of the same type on the board, we'll need to roll a d10. So let's see what we're going to have. That is 7, and then take the corresponding Vestige card and place it again underneath. Since we have 7, and here we have 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and then 7 to 9, we're going to take this card and we're going to place it right over here. After we covered the mandatory action, we're going to go to number 5 in the turn sequence, and here we have something that is called quest action, which is of course something that is optional, but only if you are situated in a safe area. The player may choose a quest action indicated on a card for which they meet the requirements, and you can choose between a personal quest or actually a public quest. So let's see what we have over here and talk a little bit about tests of the quest cards. Right now we don't have any personal quest, and we don't have a token that corresponds to one of the quests, so it wouldn't be relevant. But just for the fun of it, let's say that this token would have been in the same area as our own Penitent. So we're going to go to the quest card and see what is written on it. This card is called Incorrupt Hand of the Fraternal Master. Quest action. A Penitent may perform this quest action if they are on an area with an objective token linked to this card. So again, this is exactly what we have because it belongs to the same color. So now we'll need to resolve a stat test with our agility. So we can see that our agility right now is 6, and this is where the guild token actually come to effect if you have any of them, because each guild token is going to reduce 1 from all of your stats. So this stat test is going to be agility -1. Again, we're going to take the D10, and we need to acquire a result that is equal to or lower than the stat that we actually have, and of course the modification that we can see on the quest card. So let's roll the dice and see what's going to happen. And we have over here 4, so obviously that is lower than 5, right? 6 minus 1. And here it says, if it's a success, remove the objective token from the area you are on and place one of your cubes on the leftmost free fulfillment slot of the first row. So again, the red player would have taken one of these cubes and would have placed it right over here. If we would have failed, then we would have suffered damage. And after that, we have when completing the quest. And again, guys, we have a lot of quests and a lot of results. So I'm going to let you figure it out on your own. But this is how you're going to resolve some quests and actually how to resolve most of the tests, I want to say, if not all of them in this game. So that was actually a good example. But again, this is not our situation, so let's take it back to how it was. And after that, we're going to go to the end of the turn, where the player resolves in any order of their choosing all the effects displayed on the game components in their possession, activating in this phase. So again, we don't have any one of the cards or quest cards that we have acquired that actually indicates the end of the turn. Again, pretty obvious since this is the first turn of the game, and this is where their turn is going to end. Just to let you know that if the player's pain, which is what we can see right over here, is on the maximum, they will now be able to reset it and choose one of the following options. Either you're going to draw a personal quest, which is what we have over here with these cards, or you will be able to draw a vestige card with the type of your choosing. And with that, we have finished, and we're going to move on to the green player, and I do want to show you how the exploration actually works. So again, the green player doesn't have anything with the beginning of the turn. They're going to go directly into movement. They're going to move 1 over here, and then they're going to move to number 8, because of course those areas are adjacent, they're linked. And then they are going to collect, which says gain 20 destiny. So let's take that immediately. Destiny is what we can see right over here. We start at 0, and we're going to move on to 20. And then we can see a portal sign that actually allows us to teleport ourselves to any other area that has a portal icon. In our case, they will be able to teleport themselves over here to number 23. So not so bad to go to different areas on the other side of the map. Then they will have to do their mandatory action, so they would like to do an exploration since they are situated in a safe area. When you're resolving exploration, you will need to roll the D100 and to add to that result the destiny that you actually have. In our case, it's 20, so 80 plus 20, that's 100. And then you will need to look in one of the tome booklets that we have. Now, in this specific scenario, we have the tomes 2, 4, and 12. So if we were situated in one of these areas, we would actually open and resolve the number that we have from one of these tomes. But if you're doing exploration from an area that does not have a tome in the scenario, you're going to take the Cvstodia booklet, which is present in all of the scenarios, and then you're going to resolve the number that we have. So we'll need to go pretty much to the end and resolve what we have in that number. So here we can see that 100 and more pilgrimage, and we'll need to apply, spend all of your destiny, then draw a pilgrimage card. So again, guys, we have here a lot of effects. Sometimes we'll need to resolve some tests. Sometimes the reward will be a little bit more straightforward. But over here, we're going to take down all of our destiny, so back to 0. and then we can draw a pilgrimage card. So that is one of the cards that we have over here. Just for the fun of it, let's see what does it say. So we have over here some flavor text that with your permission I'm going to skip. And here it says, you may gain one whisper and place this card under the pilgrimage card deck. So basically discard it to the bottom of the deck. If you don't, keep it as a personal quest. So now we have a pretty cool way that we've seen how to gain some personal quests that are not coming from this deck. Now in this personal quest, you will be able to perform it if we're situated in area number 15. So again, different cards are going to indicate different areas, but again, we'll need to resolve some stat test. So again, they can decide if to receive one of the whisper and get rid of this card, or simply take it and put it in their personal possession, and that will be a personal quest that they will be able to fulfill. So after finishing their mandatory action, the green player is going to move on to the quest action, which they're not going to perform. Obviously, there is no quest that corresponds to area number 23. The end of the turn, again, they have nothing to do. So we're going to finish their turn, and now before going back to the red player, we will need to resolve something that is called the sunset phase. When we need to resolve the sunset phase, we're going to go back to the behavior card that we've seen before, and we're going to go over everything that is written. Now, obviously, there are going to be many scenarios in this game. There is no need actually, or there is no way that we're going to go over all of them. But the things that we have over here are very straightforward. Basically, in this specific card, they're telling us to take one random token from the area bag that we have over here, place it on the lowest number that is still uncovered. If you're covering a number that is golden, do this, red, do that, and so on. So I don't want to go too much into it in order not to waste too much of your time. What I would like to do is to cover other things that we haven't seen yet in this video that I think are pretty important. Let's start with some of the basic things, and that is, for example, the prie-dieu tokens that we have on the map. Here we have placed these tokens exactly where on the setup card we saw the different tomes that we have. So it's going to be in areas 2, 4, and 12. And that is going to be an alternative collect that we'll be able to take from that specific area. Now, in order to understand what are the effects, we're going to go to the prie-dieu card that we have at the bottom right corner of the map. So let's read it together and see what's going on. Here it says that you can choose one of the two, either pray for a miracle, and by spending any number of Tears of Atonement for each one, you're going to discard one of the guild tokens that you have. So a pretty cool way to mitigate a little bit some of the effects. Or you will be able to do something that is called Find Yourself. Change your Penitent card with another one of your Penitent cards. So if you remember at the beginning of the video when we talked about the setup of the players, I did tell you that you do have an option to change between the different Penitent cards that you have. That is going to be one of the main ways, I want to say, in order to change that card. Let's talk about other 2 or 3 more effects that I can see right now on the board that might be important for you. For example, the heal 3 that we can see in area number 6. Here we have 2 options. Either it's going to be very straightforward, we're going to heal 3 wounds, or we'll be able to fill our bile. What does it mean? Right now we can see that our bile is empty. By going to that area and doing that collect action, we'll be able to flip it to the other side, and by that have it actually full. And consume is one of the maneuver-free actions that we've talked about a little bit before. When you're consuming the bile, you'll be able to heal 3 of your wounds. Another cool thing that we have over here in this game is actually alternating the dice that we have with the arsenal tokens that we have right now on your screen. So let's take an example. Let's say that one of the players have defeated again one of the shield maidens, and they have acquired this card. On the card, we can see that we're indicated a specific arsenal token, right? It says over here 2 shields plus 1 fervor. So when we're looking at it, we can see that it's this one right over here. We'll be able to place this card at our disposal, and then we're going to take this token and we're going to choose whichever token that we would like on that specific dice. Of course, pay attention that this is silver color, has to match the silver dice. We'll be able to take one of the tokens out from the die and replace it with the new token. Obviously, the tokens that we have over here are much stronger and their effects are better than what we're starting the game with. The next thing that I would like to talk to you about is how we're going to resolve a Procession card. So as I've said, sometimes we'll need to resolve one of the Procession cards. What we're going to do is to shuffle this deck. We're going to draw the first card. Over here we have the Flagellant. Then we're going to look for the enemy card that we have right next to the Procession cards. And we're going to place it in the new slot over here or on the 5th slot, for example. Now, of course, they are going to tell us what happens if the miracle board is completely full or if there is not enough miniatures in the supply or stuff like that. I'm going to let you discover it on your own because I feel it's super straightforward and not a lot of explaining to do there. But in our case, of course, on this card, we can see that we have a few areas. When we're consulting the numbers, we're going to start from the left one to the right one, of course. And here we need to check, first of all, if there is still miniatures available in the supply of that specific enemy, and we'll need to place it in that location. Now, we also have here something that is called place new miniatures on the map that has rules again. In our case, I don't have the Flagellant miniature right now with me, but let's imagine it's this one, okay? Again, it's not the same miniature, but let's just imagine. Since on the card we can see that I need to place it on number 2, and over here we can see that number 2 is not a safe area. And that is, of course, one of the rules of placing a new miniatures. So now we'll need to go to one number lower than that. In our case, of course, it's going to be number 1. If that is a safe area, then no problem, we'll be able to place that miniature there. Again, if this area would not have been safe, let's say that the other Penitent is right over here, and we don't have a lower number, we'll need to go one number higher. So again, in our case, it would have been number 3, since it is higher than number 2. Then we would have moved on to the next number that we have on the card and the next one, again, as long as we have enough miniatures in the supply. And after we finish with this card, we simply need to reshuffle the Procession deck and place it again at the corresponding location. The next thing that I would like to talk to you about is the death of a Penitent. Now, in general, you guys, dying over here in this game is not the end of the world, don't worry about it. When you actually took a fatal hit, that basically means that we don't have any more wounds that we'll be able to take, we'll basically die, and we need to apply the following in that order. First of all, the player who controls the Penitent is going to receive 1 guild token and they're going to place it on their board. So that is exactly what we can see with the symbol at the bottom of the track. And we'll need to reset the wound token back to 0. At the same time, after you're going to put the marker on 0, the fervor cube is going to move to number 6. For your Penitent, if you died on your turn that is not in the arena, pay attention, the arena is another section that I'm going to talk about right after I finish over here. You're going to remove your miniature, but you're going to place it in another area of your choice where there is no Nemesis miniature or where we have a Prix Dieu. And of course, after that, the turn is basically immediately over and you're going to move directly to number 6, end of turn. The last thing that I will talk about before going to the arena is the maneuver action that is called Equip. So again, that is one of the free actions. And here I would like to show you something that I haven't talked about before, and that is the limits of the number of cards you can have from the different types. So here we can see that we have the limit of 1 card. With the beads vestige card, we have the limit of 5. And of course, with different penitents and different cards, we're going to have different limitations. Now, when you're doing the equip, what you will be able to do is, first of all, put one of the arsenal tokens on your dice. You'll be able to rearrange them. And also, it is possible, let's say that the green player has 3 of these cards of this type of vestige, but they can equip only 1. So now basically with the equip maneuver, they will be able to install a different vestige card that they own in order to have different effects, for example. The last part, guys, that I would like to talk to you about is the confrontation. So again, the different scenarios and the different cards are going to indicate how the actual Nemesis is going to come into play. I don't want to ruin it for you too much because I want to discover it on your own. But let's imagine that this is the scenario. Our Nemesis in this scenario is called Ten Pieds Dead. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. And the confrontation is going to take place either by one of the effects of the game, which is something that will happen with the cards that we have, or if one of the penitents is going to move into a location where the nemesis is situated, which is exactly what we're going to see right now. Let's say that the red player has decided to move over here, and see what does the sequence tell us to do. The first thing is called positioning. So what we'll need to do is to take the Penitent's token that we have seen during the setup. We're going to place the token in the last area where the Penitent moved from. Since we moved from number 24 to number 18, we're going to place this token in this area and not in the same area as the nemesis. Then we'll need to take our figurine and place it in any one of the nodes of the arena that we have. So you can choose really whichever node that you would like to place. Just for the fun of it, let's place our Penitent on this node. Number 2 in the sequence is to draw a combat card. Now pay attention that we have two types of combat cards. One of them is the regular one, and the other one is the fervent combat card, which we're not going to talk about right now. So let's draw the first combat card that we have, and we're going to align it basically with the arena itself. So what does it mean? We can see that we have 3 rows of nodes that correspond exactly to the 3 rows of nodes that we have on the combat card itself. Number 3 in the sequence is that we'll be able to dodge if we want to. Dodge means that we can discard the combat card that we just drew because we don't like what we see on the card. Soon you'll understand why this decision is important. But if you do decide to do that, you have to take the vengeance damage that you can see at the top left corner of the card. You can do it as many times as you want until you're happy with the result, or basically until you're died. Number 4 is called tactics. So we're going to take the nemesis token that we have seen in setup, and we're going to place it in the same area where the nemesis miniature is situated. In our case, it's going to be right over here on number 18, and then we're going to take the miniature of the nemesis and we're going to place it on the arena where it is indicated with this symbol. In our case, of course, it's going to be right next to us, so it's going to be nice and cozy in the arena. Now, if actually where we're supposed to place the nemesis we have our Penitent, then the controlling player is going to move to an adjacent node according to their choice. Now, adjacent node basically is any node that is connected to the node that we're situated in. So just to understand, this node is adjacent to this one, and this one. This node is adjacent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and of course 6 where the nemesis is situated. At this time, if our Penitent is standing on a node where we can see arrows going out from, just like we can see on the card right over here, we have 1 arrow down and 1 arrow up, then we'll need to push our Penitent in that direction for as many arrows that we have. Since here we have 1 arrow down and 1 arrow up, our Penitent will be able to choose where they would like to go. So let's say that they're going to decide to go to the bottom node over here. At this point, we can continue moving from one node to another if we wish to, but pay attention that for every node that we moved from, we're going to suffer from -1 to all of the stats that we have. That means strength, agility, and for the cunning. If you decided that you're going to go to one of the nodes that is not connected anymore with a white line, basically you're going to earn whatever you have on that node, and then you're going to perform something that is called the Penitent's Escape. When you're performing this escape, basically you're going to place the Nemesis miniature back on the map instead of the token, and the same with the Penitent. And after that, if it was during the turn of the Penitent, then the turn immediately goes to number 6 of the turn sequence, which is the end of the turn. If we're still good and we continue with the combat, we're going to go to number 5 in this sequence that is called Stats Test. So that is what we can see in the middle of the card. Again, we're going to see what is the test that we need to perform. That is agility -2. But pay attention that we are situated in a node that is going to give us +1 to agility. So we'll need to perform this test, just like we've seen before, with agility -1, because we are going to receive the bonus from our location. Then we're going to apply whatever effect it is with a failure or success. And then we're going to move to the combat, which is really resembles the combat that we've seen before with the map combat. So first we'll be able to sacrifice ourselves if we wish to, then preparation if we had any card of that type, then we'll need to do the attack test, so we're going to roll our 3 dice and see what are the results. And now I remind you that we did earn from before one of these cards that is going to help us with the reaction. So basically we'll be able to take down 4 fervor in order to choose one of our dice and give it a +3. So now you can see that the more we're advancing in this game, the more options we'll have to alternate our dice and actually succeed in the combat. After that, we're going to, of course, apply the roll, which is, of course, compared to whatever we have over here, and see if we manage to succeed or that we have failed. In any case, I remind you that we'll need to check the counter attack, just like we've seen before with the symbols over here, and apply the damage if we need to. If we manage to defeat the combat card, we're going to keep that combat card even if our penitent is actually dead, for example, from the counter attack. And also we're going to gain the fervor from the dice that we have, which is something that I haven't talked about in a map combat. So every time that on one of your dice you're going to have this symbol of a fervor and plus something, you are going to take the cube of that resource and you're going to move it up as many as we have gained. If we failed in this combat and the penitent is not dead, then we'll need to apply the assault, which is basically if we're situated in one of the danger zones on the combat card, which is exactly where we're situated right now with one of the shapes that we have, then we'll need to apply the effect that we can see at the bottom of the card. In our case, we can see that we're situated in this type of hexagon, so we're going to take 1 damage of this type. The last thing that we have is the confrontation result. If we were defeated in this combat, then this card is going to go to the bottom of the combat deck that we just drew the card from, and then we're going to apply the penitent escape, which is what we talked about just a few minutes ago. But if we manage to win in this combat, then the confrontation continues, starting again from step 2, which is to draw another combat card. So it's pretty cool because if your character is strong enough, then you can just chain this combat card again until you're going to achieve one of the winning conditions. In our specific scenario, not only will we need to take 2 of these combat cards to win 2 confrontations with this combat card, we're also going to draw a fervent combat card after we have defeated 2, which is basically a more challenging combat. And that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I hope that you learned something new or saw something that you like. Take care, and I'll see you next time.